So really quickly, we're going to move to blogging, and I'm going to check the chat and see where we are. Yes, I agree. Uh, I agree that LinkedIn is great for networking. Okay, so I'm going to try to show you the whole slideshow. I apologize. I have had some technical difficulties with my computer today. So let me make. I want to be able to show you the whole thing. Hang on. All right. Okay, so this should be better to see. Okay, so blogging is something that I do a lot of, and I think it's really valuable for people in extension to do. And so this little section of the presentation is going to talk really quickly about blogging. And again, in the interactive session, we'll go out and we'll jump and I'll show you some examples. So I started blogging for extension in January of 2008. And I still currently blog on a number of different platforms for the university and professionally. I had the privilege of actually creating a brand platform for the University of California, and all I did for 4 years was blog for that platform and do the social media. It's called the UC Food Observer. So I am really biased in favor of blogging. I think that blogging is a wonderful way for us to share our work and to educate people. So we can share knowledge, we can teach others, engage people, educate, persuade. I think blogging provides a wonderful way for people in extension to establish expertise. We have such wonderful science-based information to share, and that's really sorely needed today. So that's a wonderful thing for us to be able to do. Blogging can provide a great way for you to grow your online presence. So people always get stuck. What should I write about? And I know that I personally often suffer from writer's block. And so here are some of the things that I think of when I am going, okay, it's time to write a blog post. Do I have new information that I can share? Extension always has wonderful new information to share. Are we hosting an event or a program? Is there a new resource that's available? That might make a good blog post. A new research finding, in case you missed it. So what I notice in the extension organization that I've been affiliated with for my career is that we produce so much information and we put so much stuff out every day that it's really easy for people to miss things. And so what I like to do is I like to go back and find things and bundle them thematically and make a blog post that sort of wraps up a number of resources that I shared previously. And I'll show you an example of that later with wildfire resources that I recently put together. So here are more things to write about. Share what you're reading, listening to, or watching, and explain why. Give a little report from the field and maybe take a video to share with that. Pose a question and then use the answers for a future blog post. I'll show you an example of that today too. Connect your work with what's in the news and popular culture. And so what's in the news now, a lot, of course, is COVID-19. And I've seen some very effective blog posts from university organizations and extension organizations talking about the great work that's being done at these institutions in relation to COVID-19, whether it's vaccine research or whether it's information to help keep people safe, information about food safety, things like that. And these pieces have traveled very far because they've been located within this larger sort of news cycle. One of the things that I like to do, and I'll show you another example of that later on, is when I feel like I'm running out of things to write about, I will do a Q&A with someone. So I'll basically find a colleague whose work I can profile. And that's a win-win, right? Because you're highlighting the good work of someone that you work with and promoting their program, giving consumers good information, and you've got a great piece of content that's really humanizing. And another thing too that I have found about Q&As is that during COVID-19, there are a lot of people that I know that have, books that are being published right now, and they're not getting out for book tours. So I have actually found it really pretty easy to send an email to an author saying, hey, you've got this book out. Can I ask you a few questions? And they email me the response. And that's been pretty helpful. Another thing that you could do instead of just blogging would be vlogging with creating a little video blog. And we'll look at Loom next, which is a little screencasting tool. So hang in, we're almost done with the slides, and then we'll be moving to the interactive session. So again, for blogs, you probably already have material. Think about your newsletters, and they're packed with information, and you could basically pull one article out, or you could write a blog that had sort of like a summary, 2 or 3 sentences about each article in the newsletter, or 2 or 3 articles in the newsletter, and that could be a blog post, and then you could direct people back to that newsletter. Again, research findings, fact sheets, we have those. We have website portals that we could also be blogging about to send people to these incredible online resources that we have. Okay, so in my opinion, good blog posts teach something, or they give people good information. When I'm doing a blog post, generally I do fairly short blog posts, and I just try to make 1 or 2 key points. I do have some long form blog posts that I've written, but generally for my sort of daily work, I try to make 1 or 2 key points. I provide a strong lead, which is the opening 3 or 4 sentences, and try to make that strong. I try at the end of my blog post to have a call to action, whether it's go like our Facebook page, or go visit us here, or download a report here, something like that. Good visuals are essential. Video's fantastic to sort of embed in a blog, as are photographs. So the secret sauce for me is I like to include hyperlinks to multiple resources in my blog post, and I'll show you what that looks like. I think another thing that is really important for all of us to think about if we're writing blog posts is that we're actually curating information for people. This is a really high calling. We are selecting the best resources for people to read in the way that we would appreciate people selecting the best resources for us to read. And we're experts in each of our areas. And so this is important for us to curate knowledge, because one of the things I hear from people and that I see being online every day in social media is there's an overwhelming amount of information. And so having someone sort of curate a manageable amount of good, high quality information is really, really an important thing for us to do. And Victor, I love it. Victor has invited people to post any questions here in the chat. And what we will do with questions that appear in the chat, and what we did last week, if you noticed, is we took some of those and we made some blog posts and put them in Connect extension. So we sort of extended the learning there. So thank you so much, Victor. So one of the other things that I like to do is I like to call someone out favorably in my blog post. I call that sharing light, whether it's a reporter who's covered our extension program, or whether it's the work of a colleague or a really terrific, statewide program. If it's related and I can squeeze it in, I will do that. And then what I call crosstown traffic, which is when I write a blog post, I share it everywhere. And I share it multiple times. So I will not only have the blog post on the website, I'll do a Facebook post, I'll do an Instagram write-up, and then say, go to the link in my bio to access the blog post. I'll put it on Twitter. I will share something about it, typically on LinkedIn. And so I just spread this around, and that's something that's part of what we call content strategy. And we'll be actually going over content strategy, I think it's in the next session. And you'll be coming away with a checklist for and a series of questions to ask yourself to create an overall sort of communications and content strategy for your program and your work. Okay. So, blogging tools and platforms, there are so many places for you to blog. So your institution has sites and places that you can contribute blogs to. At the University of California, we have something called a site builder, and anyone who's on staff can basically sign up for an account and then just write a blog post. We also have one of the best things we did is, starting a blog is really overwhelming. And a group of us came together and we started something called the Food Blog. And we sign up for different weeks. And so that way you sort of spread it around. But it goes on the main site and it's tagged as a food blog. So you could definitely do it on your institution's site, right? And Victor's got a really good point. You can use Twitter for microblogging. You can use Instagram for microblogging and using the hashtags and things like that. And that is fantastic to use Twitter. And we're going to also be going over Twitter in our next session. And Victor and I both use Twitter a lot, and we can show you ways and examples of how we and others have microblogged on Twitter using threads, Twitter threads. So some of you may want to blog on WordPress. There's some other sites. These are all free, right? Medium, where you can set up an account. And one of the things that's kind of cool about Medium, and then Quora is another one, is that you don't have to actually have an audience. They host your blog post for you. You don't have to have an audience. And they sort of use their algorithms and artificial intelligence to build an audience for you. And I use Medium. I use our institutional site to blog. I use WordPress to blog. I have one site on WordPress. I have a couple of websites on Squarespace, and I have blogs on those. And then I also blog on LinkedIn. And I do like to blog on Medium, and I blog for an organization on Medium. So another place that you could blog, and I'm going to show you how we can do it later on, is called Connect Extension, which is our platform. And I'm hoping that some of you might go make some little short blog post there, and I'll show you how to do that later. Okay, so I talked a little bit about working with others to create a blog, and that wouldn't even have to be just people at your own institution. It could be extension people that you work with in collaborations as a multi-state collaboration. But this idea of having groups of people do blogs, I think is really good. I also see a lot of success with that in graduate programs where graduate students sort of alternate doing a blog for a department. And again, consider that every digital platform is an opportunity to microblog and share your content across the platforms. Okay, so the best advice about blogging comes from Teresa O'Connor. So Teresa O'Connor is a nationally known garden blogger, and she's won all sorts of awards for garden blogging. And we worked together on the UC Food Observer. And she's now left the university, but she's like a master gardener and was a statewide 4-H person, and she's very into cooperative extension. And her advice is to write more simply than you normally would. Use short sentences, use bullet points, use pull quotes, photos, and charts. Don't be afraid of white space. Use white space. Make it easy to scan